So in the last demo, we created a behavior through a custom attached property. Now let me show you how you can achieve the same thing very quickly using the behaviors from the XAML Behaviors for WPF library. To do that, I'm going to switch over to Blend and open the same solution. Blend is an optional component when you install Visual Studio and has a few features in the Blend Designer that have not made their way into Visual Studio yet. In Blend here, which you can see looks an awful lot like Visual Studio, they share a common shell. I can go to Solution Explorer up here, expand customers, and open my customers list view. From there, I go to Assets, Behaviors, and I can click this link to add the XAML behaviors for WPF library as a NuGet package. Once that completes, your project will have a reference to that NuGet package. And you can see it switches to display the collection of pre-built behaviors that are part of this library. The one I want is called Call Method Action, which is what we're trying to do, call a method on our view model. I can select my user control in the Objects and Timeline pane down here, and double-click on Call Method Action up in Assets to add it as a child of the user control. That single double-click action did several things for me by doing it here in Blend. It added a XAML namespace for the behaviors library into the view as a URI, and it added several lines of XAML to attach the behavior to the view properly. Now that I've done that, I can save and drop back over to Visual Studio to finish filling out the properties of that behavior. First off, over here in Solution Explorer, we can see it added a reference to the Microsoft.xaml.behaviors NuGet package. Then over here in the view, we can see it added corresponding XAML namespace so that we can use the stuff that's in that library in our XAML. And then if we scroll down a bit, we can see this little chunk of XAML that it added. It added an attached property that is a triggers collection. It added an event trigger in that collection, hooked up to the mouse left button down event, and a call method action object underneath the event trigger. The way this works is that the event trigger will watch for the specified event to fire in the view, and then will invoke the behavior that is contained as a child element. I'll switch the event that the event trigger is watching for to loaded, since that's the event we want to use. Now on the call method action behavior, it needs to know what it's going to call. So there's a property for target object, which we can just set to binding. Remember, if you just do binding in curly braces with no other arguments like this, it means the binding will produce a reference to the entire data context object, which is our view model in MVVM. And then there's a separate method name property, which we can set to our load customers method. This achieves the same thing that our attached behavior did. It allows us to effectively point to a method on our view model and declaratively state that it should be invoked when the loaded event fires. So with that code in place, I can go back up here and get rid of our attached behavior. We've still got our breakpoints on the method, and we can go ahead and run and see that it's still calling our load customers method on startup. Now we've still got that bug that the customers aren't showing up, and we'll fix that after we talk about property change events a little bit.